Comes to the light, comes to the light, comes to the light. Comes to the light, comes to the light, comes to the light. Comes to the light. Shout out to Jill Scott for that song. It comes to the light when you do things even in darkness. Sometimes people feel as though they're getting away with things because no one has brought it to the surface as of yet. But God has been watching behind the scenes. When you have a little boy, he grows up. Let's say there's a little boy who's growing up in the hood. Excuse me. And he's a little boy and he's growing up in a neighborhood. And in this neighborhood, he sees all of his friends getting good things. He sees them getting special sneakers, clothing. He sees the attention that his friends are getting. And he goes home and he realizes he doesn't have this. He looks at his mom and he realizes she's barely spending any time with him or paying him attention because she has work to do. She has to look through paperwork. She has so many deadlines to meet, so she doesn't have the time to spend with him. His father, when his father does come around, he's complaining and talking about what he's not doing. So he doesn't miss his father either. But he knows that he needs to get some attention. So he'll do things in school to get the attention that he wants. Even bad attention is still attention. When the boy grows up, he does not find himself doing things that would show him in a good light, What he does is he steals, he participates in heinous crimes, and he finds himself compromising himself over and over and over again. Now, it's one thing to do these things when you are solo, but once you start having children and you find yourself getting married or in relationships with women and having these children, that changes everything. The children need to see good examples. Now, when this problem is not fixed, when the problem is not clarified and taken care of, when the child is making all these bad mistakes and acting out and really crying out for attention, when the counseling or when the help is not given, now this person turns out to grow up and being the same tantrums he put on as a child, he's now putting them on as an adult. Now he's going to jail. Now he's doing, things that he really should not be doing. And his family might even be getting embarrassed by his actions. So all of these different acts, they started somewhere. They started again when he was little. You have to invest in the children. If we don't invest in the children, we're going to find ourselves in a bigger situation. And we don't want to find ourselves either burying the person or having to go to jail to visit them. So, in this same community, different people decide that they want to unalive the adults and they want to take advantage of money that should be given to them, or so they think. I remember once I was at my aunt's house in a plantation, and a lady came by and she was selling insurance, and they sat in the living room for a long time with the light off. I mean, that lady must have really been enjoying herself, but she never left. And as soon as I go to get something, a snack from the kitchen, here she is, trying to sell me insurance on myself, trying to get me to sign my signature to see my handwriting. Things sometimes seem small, but you have to look at the bigger picture, okay? By us not looking at the bigger picture, we don't see what's going on, and we're not using our intuition. So when we're not using our intuition, other things tend to fly out, and again, this is God giving us examples so that we can see. But we're not seeing them sometimes because we're so preoccupied with other things. We must turn to God's understanding, not our understanding. I grew up in a church. I grew up with a family of people who used to go to church, hallelujah, and they were holier than holy. But like I said, when they got home, they did everything unholy. I really, not trying to, throw anyone under the bridge, but what I am saying is that we have to look at our own actions. Okay, I'll be the first one to tell you. I ran out of money the other day and I had to ask to get on the bus. Could you believe it? I had to ask, can I just get this fare, get on this bus so that I could make it to my appointment on time. I don't know what I ran out of change, did not have exact change. And one thing you have to have is exact change on the bus. The machine was broken, so I couldn't get the ticket. It was so many things, one thing after the next. And I realized that I needed to sit and really get myself grounded, start all over again. Because that's what happens. Sometimes when we get ourselves caught up in so many things and we don't take the necessary time to get ourselves seated and correct our problem, our issues, the problem becomes an even bigger one, okay? So let's look at the dynamics of family, okay? A woman, she had a son by a warlock, and with this son, she saw that the son was repeating everything that the father did. Even when he was trying not to be more like his father, I don't know, perhaps it was because he was named after his father, as to why it was that he was making the same exact mistakes. You know, sometimes we see there's a deal on the table, okay? Somebody will plant an idea in your head. They'll say, you know what, let's put our money together and let's get this one thing. And the idea sounded good when they first, presented it to you. They said, let's put our money together and let's invest in this stock. But afterwards, you realize that maybe that was not for me. Maybe those stocks should not be purchased by me, because in all honesty, I wasn't even thinking about stocks until I was hanging around this one person. Watch what it is that you're doing. Watch the company that you're keeping. Be conscious of what's going on in your surroundings, okay? So, a woman was dating this warlock, as I was saying. She had a child by the warlock, and there was a question about the second child as well. But she knew that, things would get better. So the children were getting older now, and she started receiving certain behaviors from this warlock. He wanted her to tell him different things that he thought she would be able to have answers to. She didn't want to give him these answers because she realized that he really just wanted her around to use her for advice. He wanted her around so that he could have her exercise in the dark arts as well. And she didn't want any parts of that. So she decided she was going to move away. Now, with her moving away, she moved away in a neighborhood where really she didn't have any neighbors that were really close by. So if she screamed, they wouldn't even hear her. So she moves, let's say she moved upstate. Okay, she moved upstate. She finds a mate that she really likes, she starts dating him and they get married. Now, the person from her past, the warlock, starts doing dark arts because he's low on money. And he needs some money in order to really get ahead. So he decides he wants to sacrifice the woman, the mother of his son. And he does it. He successfully does it. But here's the thing. He leaves the evidence in a way that the only person who could be caught and in trouble behind the ex being unalive would be the mate. They worked on this for a while. Between her sister and her ex, they got together to set this guy up. He's married to the woman, but he's going to be the one who they're going to get to set up so that the woman, when she becomes unalive, they are able to get the money. So they do this, and she's found unalive. Now the family tries to bury her, the family of the children who are the husband's children. But she has other people get involved, friends in the neighborhood and everything. They contact her children to come. And when her children find out all this going on, they are devastated. They go to look out for the father to see if he is okay and if he would be a reliable source of support. Nobody could find this father for hours. The father was on his way back from helping the situation. See, the father was a part of the whole scam. He was a part of unaliving the woman. It was all pawned on the old man that she was married to. But the real culprits, who worked the magic, who worked behind the scenes effortlessly, were the sister and the boyfriend. They lived in New York. And here's the thing. If you live in New York, certain places you live, people just say, it's almost like a person who dies in an old folks home. They say, he was old anyway, so they don't do the autopsy report. When they don't do the autopsy report and they let it go, it's because they think the old man, he doesn't need an autopsy because in all honesty, he's just old. But that's not always, it's not always an open and shut case. So, as the story goes along, the children are looking for the father. They can't find the father. When they finally do, the father's laying up in the hospital. And when you ask the doctor what's wrong with him, the doctor says nothing. He's just having anxieties. Why is he having anxiety? Is it because he was a part of the situation in question? So after the anxiety and everything, his sons hold him up, hug him, and they're so happy that he's all right. This is what happened. So as the story continues, they never asked the question. So the young lady who comes to the hospital with them asks, how long have you been here? The doctor says he's only been there for an hour. Where was he during those other hours? The hours that this whole murder was taking place. See, when you don't ask questions, when you don't look at the whole picture, you might jump to conclusions, but outside of jumping to conclusions, there are facts here. The facts are, where was he all that time? Where was she? Was she always in the house? When they found her, she was in the same position, and she was in a running position because she was running away from the gentleman with the weapon. When we are looking at a scene of a crime, we have to exercise the authority on all parts, all aspects. Who was here, who wasn't here? Now, if her ex had the time to drive up there to help and break the whole situation into the pieces that formulated soon thereafter, how did he get back to the city so fast? That might be the question you might want to revisit. But let's move on. 2 issues. One child who has not grown up. He's now a boy child, man child, who as a child he had tantrums when he didn't get what he wanted. Now he's an adult and now he's still looking for the attention that he missed with his mom. Let's look at and reevaluate the individuals. For here is the issue. The issue is when we don't take care of the problems, when these men are boys, they become male children, children. And what happens is they end up doing the wrong things. You see, if a child does a whole bunch of storytelling and they're not being honest, you have to sit that child down and time out. Have them think about what it is that they did wrong. Have them really think about it, because we are trying to elevate, we're trying to make sure that these children are growing up and making the right choices. If we allow them to continue telling these stories, I don't like to use this word, but I will say it this time, lies. You allow this child to consistently tell these lies. It wasn't cute in the beginning, and it won't be cute in the end. Now what it is we are allowing these children to grow up. Bad enough, certain things were taken out of the school, certain structures were taken out of some of these schools. But if the child is at home, the mother, she's the one who's probably going to be the one spending that time with the child to get to know who this child is. When the family gets together, the husband and wife, they are able to do the same. But let's reverse this again. What about the child who is left with this man child? The man-child gets upset because he is not able to execute a plan of action that allows him to gain money. So the child he has in a car with him, he takes that anger out on that child. And this child is now being abused. Now, I know I'm jumping around, but I'm getting somewhere. What I'm saying is, in our society, who do you turn to when these things are happening? How do you turn to the police when the police have exhausted all possibilities? They're already running around looking for other people and doing certain things. What about higher government? What about the CIA, the FBI, whoever the people who are involved? Some of these caseloads are so high, so large, that how is it that we're going to even expect the problems to be solved that are going on in our society? Well, I stated this earlier in another episode when I said, you have autistic adults. Now, as children, now I know it's not the answer to everything. I know and I understand where you're coming from with this too. But I'm telling you that I have worked with autistic children on every level, every age group. And I'm telling you, when they get older, they don't think the same way. All right, you might think with the right side of your brain. That autistic child might think with both sides of their brain. That means we have even more information that he or she is going to take in, and they're going to execute the problem differently. If nobody believes me, why don't we just test it out? Why don't we get an adult autistic person and find out what it is that they want to do in life? Let's say they want to be a detective. Hire them on as an intern just to test it out, just to see if this male or female are capable of doing more than others. Again, in society, we have so many things that are not balancing out. Too many people overworked. We don't have enough bus drivers. We don't have enough school teachers. We don't have enough of a lot of things. But one thing that we do have enough of, and that is people. And you could even have them take an exam to see where their brain is and how their brain operates, how they execute issues. My issue that I'm having with this is that in some cases they're not even looked upon. They're not even observed. They're not even looked at and evaluated for a position. And here it is. They might be more than capable of doing this job, but they haven't even been given the option because people put them in a box. And in that box, you see this person as being special. Yes, they are special. They're so special in so many ways, and we are not giving them the opportunity that they need in order to get ahead. So I'm looking at the different issues here, because it is important that we not close the door on people because we think that they're so special. As a child, I was considered too sensitive. They thought, I would cry and I would get upset because I wasn't able to use my voice. I wasn't able to speak. I was always, first of all, I didn't have my own bed. I had to sleep in a chair while my sister slept in a bed, okay? I had, there was a series of things that happened. Never went to the doctor's office or to the dentist when I left my mother's house. Living at my father's house and helping him with the family. Sometimes, if my stepmother decided, if they were having problems and she left, I was the one left there to help take care of the children, We sometimes put too much responsibility on our daughters because, when we look at, how the battle of the sexes, we say, okay, boys do this and girls do that. And I'm going to tell you, honestly, I did want to be of help because I wanted my younger siblings to get ahead. I wanted them to be better. So, I guess if I had to do it all again, I probably would have ended up in the same situation anyway, because my father wanted me to go to school in New Jersey. He didn't want me to go to school in New York because there was a lot of corruption going on in some of the schools, so he said. Either way, regardless of what the situation is, regardless of how you want to look at different things, We have to look at the dynamics of a family. When people are not there, you have just the opposite. You have the children being neglected. Me being the oldest sister, when my stepmother and father weren't getting along, I was the one who babysat. You know, I was always the one who was the go-to person. Sometimes she didn't want to cook. I had to go in the kitchen and cook because the kids had to eat. We all had to eat. You see, when you look at the family dynamics, you have to look at all the individuals who are involved. And when you look at all the individuals who are involved, you have to look at their positions. How did this person end up the way that they are today? Now, God blessed me tremendously, because even though people were saying I was a sensitive child, let me tell you something. Even when a person says that you're sensitive, that's a good thing. Because with those sensitivities, you also improve your intuition. You're able to see things that others will not see. You're able to take in things that others will not take in, okay? Now, regardless of how we might want to look at what I've said today, we have to look at the bigger picture. Our autistic children, as well as adults, are here. They are a gift. And somehow we are not looking at these as gifts. We are not allowing them to take on certain positions that they should be allowed to. Okay? Now, I don't know. Maybe you guys have already tried and experimented in this case. Maybe not. I just feel like it's important that we look at all of our options and execute it as set, thus, and so. Okay? So, again, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope that you understand and are able to at least be enlightened by the idea of things. So lovely being you.